Terror clawed through Yin. She didn't understand why or how she had come to be there, but as she ran through the dark and snow-filled forest she found herself in, all she could do was will herself to keep going and put one foot in front of the other. Something was chasing her, and she couldn't let it catch her. But something jerked her back, and just as she felt the fear course through her veins, the feel of an icy grip clawing through her shoulder, she bolted upwards with beads of sweat dripping down her back and forehead. Her body trembled as she breathed in a shaking breath, then smoothing her hair back to the nape of her neck as she tried to calm her rapidly beating heart. It wasn't often that she had these nightmares of when she transmitted to the demon-slaying world, but she knew why she was having them now. I'm advancing too quickly, far too quickly. If this keeps up, Muzan will turn me into a demon just like he planned. True, I can kill myself, but will I ever be able to regenerate after that? Or even regenerate back into a human? Dying by the sun as a demon maybe doesn't automatically turn me back into a human. Maybe regeneration only works as a human? Or will I only generate back to how I exactly was before I died? This is all hurting my head. Pulling her knees up to her chest, the blanket of her futon now bunched up around her feet, Yin rested her cheek against her knees and thought back to the fight with Gyutaro. It seemed so long, yet it was only mere hours ago, especially considering how surprised she was when from her own strength was being able to throw him across the room. She wasn't the only one. When Gyutaro finally understood that what she had done, he usually slit eyes wide. Muzan had walked in and promptly ended the duel just by being there. His red gaze had stayed pinned to her the entire time, not once moving away. What the fuck was that? It unnerved her, but his words and actions didn't deviate from his usual instructions to rest and rehabilitate before her training with Gyokyo, Upper Moon 5. In fact, even though it seemed as though he wanted to say something more, he left before saying anything more but could happen after that. It was so unnatural. Before Yin's mind could divert any further on matter, she jumped in shock when the door of her room was slid open rather violently. Gyutaro standing there in the opening with a rather threatening expression decorating his facial features. It seemed as if he was grappling with something that he couldn't quite grasp, and that realization only made him more angry. Moving forward, stepping closer to Yin, trembling form, he crouched down and just stared. She didn't move, didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. "Tell me," he breathed out, his raspy voice low, granted, and holding no hint of emotion. "After so long, why am I only remembering it now?" "What?" She blinked. "Tell me," he roared, his sickle that she hadn't noticed he was gripping tearing through her leg. The shriek that ripped from her throat at the contact, shrilled and piercing. "Tell me why I'm remembering now. I don't want to remember it. I don't." Trembling in both fear and pain, small whimpers sliding past her lips, Yin tried to keep her cool, her fingers shaking as she tried to stanch the bleeding that was leaking from her thigh. Gyutaro's sickle was still buried in her flesh, so she couldn't heal, and that meant more pain. He kept mumbling under his breath words that she couldn't quite understand or catch, her mind too much in a jumble to translate anything, tears pressing to the corners of her eyes that threatened to spill. What does he want? He doesn't want to remember? Is he talking about his human life? God, it hurts so fucking much. "Gyutaro," she whispered, finally gaining his attention as his gaze locked with hers. "Please, stop." Glancing down at what he was doing, surprise flickered in his eyes. He quickly pulled the weapon from her leg, wincing when she cried out from the feeling of her muscles slicing in half. However, in less than 2 minutes, the wound had healed. The only clue that it had ever happened from was the blood that soaked the edges of her kimono. "Tell me," he whispered softly, as not to startle her again, trying to regain in his emotions that threatened to spill out of control. "Why is it that they say demons are cruel? But all I remember is the cruelty that you humans inflicted on me and my sister." At that, Yin couldn't answer. Memories of when she watched the anime flashed through her mind. The bruises, the blood, the corpse of Daki. No one could have gone through so much pain, yet Gyutaro and his sister did. And even then, when she was nothing but someone watching the anime that she knew she couldn't be real, she cried and felt pity for them, being that they lived over 100 years ago. Even now, tears slipped down her cheeks. The tears were no longer from pain, though, but instead for the one in front of her. Yin stuttered, trying to stop the gasping of breath and tears that escaped. "I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Gyutaro, I know what happened, and I'm sorry. What happened to Umi? Umi?" Gyutaro cut her off, his eyes wide at the name. "Umi." In an instant, he backed away, as his gaze unfocused, his jaw slouching in his position, standing up cautiously, his hands out in case he snapped and decided to continue his attack on Yin. Said girl inhaled sharply when his neck snapped around so that he was now facing the door. Daki standing there with a clear bewilderment as to why he was there. "Ume." Gyutaro breathed out, embracing Daki. Whoa, that got sad. Anyways, it's time for Toagawa Era Secret. A part of Yin wants to turn into a demon, but the other part doesn't want her to. Gyutaro links his ability to remember his human life to Yin's presence, something clearly distressful for him since such emotions were painful. Daki knew Gyutaro would be in Yin's room, considering he had been acting strangely ever since fighting her, and she wanted to find out why, believing in a right as his sister. And also, they know where each other are at all times. But, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye! Mwah!